Well, it finally happened. The days of the hobby cheat juice are behind us. Oil washes have taken over and have put the acrylic wash out of a job. The king is dead. Long live the king. Not true. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Eons of Battle. Washes, moist mastery, cheat juice, liquid talent, fluid flare, aquatic aptitude, shade paints. Whatever you call them, they have taken a backseat lately to the new hotness on the block, oils. But I believe that washes still deserve a spot in the toolbox of all mini painters, and I think I can explain why. Also, stay tuned all the way till the end to see a montage of painted minis courtesy of the EOB Complete community. Those dirty spotlight hoggers. I wish I could rant and rave against the oil paints, but there's actually a lot to like about them. They have a long working time, allowing you to apply paint at your leisure and make corrections as they appear, and these adjustments are simple to make, pulling off the paint with a thinner soaked Q-tip. Compare that to acrylic, where it is basically impossible to remove paint once it's dry. Oil has a lot of practicality, and oil is exciting. It's new, it's witchcraft. You probably bought a fancy new paint in tubes, synthetic brushes, and a can of odorless thinner. It's the hot new thing right now, and all the cool kids are doing it. I think the trouble with washes is that they were actually hurt by their larger-than-life reputation. They were heralded as the thing that will make painting easy, instant success. It will be that fast, and it will be that easy. The trouble with washes is that they're not magic, they're just paint. Paint like any other. It still takes skill and practice to use them properly. But once you get the hang of it, you will unlock the magic. It can become the secret sauce of your paint jobs. It'll allow you to achieve fast shades and sexy shadows. Washes! You are the chosen paint fixer! You were meant to destroy the need for skill, not join in the confusion. Bring balance to the paint job, not leave it in sloppiness. I hate you! Yes, washes are not a miracle cure, but they are still pretty epic. Wash paints are specifically engineered paints designed to brush on and flow away from raised areas on the mini and into the recesses, shading the mini for you. Most paint companies make a line of washes, and some of my favorites are Games Workshop shades like Null Oil and Agrax Earth Shade, and all the Army Painter Quick Shades. I have also used Vallejo, and sorry Vallejo, but your washes just ain't that good. They're more like watery paint, and I can add water to my own paint, thank you very much. To me, the thing that makes a good wash is the thickness. Wash paints are much thinner than normal acrylics, but they are still a little gel-like. That little bit of thickness helps them stick to where you put them. Very watery paint often gets runny and hard to control. Wash paints are very thin, but they're still made to behave like normal paint. To apply a wash, there's essentially two ways to go about it. You can glob it onto a model and let it dry, or apply it carefully to one small spot and perfect it in the moment. The blob it on technique is the advertised way to use a wash. You brush it on, then let it dry, and wherever it pools becomes your shadow. And it does a decent job of this. One thing to keep in mind is washes only work really well on lighter colors. If this is black and this is white, you want to apply washes to colors that are on this half. If you apply a dark brown wash over dark brown paint, it won't change the look that much. To use washes, just brush them on, and work quickly to apply an even coat. If you're too slow, the edges of your brush strokes can dry out, and then you will get a small line where the two parts meet. Once you have the model coated, it can take a minute or two to dry, and you can just let it dry and deal with what happens, but really you want to play with it while it's still wet. You can take a brush that is dry, but still damp. You never want to touch paint with dry bristles. With your brush, you can touch it to the mini and soak up the wash that is pooling in areas that you don't want. The wash will outline details and do some slight highlighting and shading of surfaces. Painting a model this way is a very solid way of doing things, but I find myself using washes much more often in a surgical approach. A surgical strike is what I do more often. If I want to add some quick shadows, I put on a wash in the same thick fashion, but then I introduce some thinner. Now you can use a product thinner or water in a pinch, but water can start to thin the wash too much and you'll lose some of its ability to stay put. So to help stop this, you can mix a little bit of matte medium into your thinning water. I applied some brown wash to the tan parts of his uniforms, and I wicked away excess paint from the raised areas. I could just dunk the whole model and it would help push the contrast, but it'll be much better to use specific colors and levels of wash to enhance the contrast I already have. The brown wash brings out the texture of his coat, then I applied a green wash to darken the shadows of his pants and blend my highlights. And for his weapons and backpack, I globbed on some Null Oil. And since I already had a zenithal highlight, This will increase the contrast without losing any of the detail. I almost never thin washes on a palette. I prefer to glob it on and then correct while it's on the model. That way I can see it at its most saturated and then tone it down from there, if I want to. On this tau symbol, I liked how strong the recesses got, and I wicked away wash that was sitting on top of the white. This is how I use wash paint most of the time. A selective wash. It's not a dunk, it's a small amount of wash to push the value of what I'm working on. But a wash paint is rarely the final step. I always find that a wash does too good a job of darkening an area, and so I have to go back in and brighten it up. I usually do this with glazes, brush strokes of thin paint. I do this so that I retain the nice gradients left behind by the wash. If I apply paint just like I would a base coat, I would get lines of color that sit on top of my nice wash job, and that doesn't look very convincing. A nice glaze does the trick. Subtlety, you want those color transitions, and to keep the outlining the wash did for you. I said that I always apply washes neat, right out of the pot or bottle, but for washes, this might be a little controversial, but I actually prefer GW pots to dropper bottles. For me, washes are technical paints to be used to achieve an effect, so I don't load them onto my palette when I start a paint job. And since I always glob it on straight from the pot, it makes sense to go one brush load at a time from the pot, rather than pour out a whole drop from a bottle. Only taking paint one brush load at a time saves me paint. But there is a pretty huge downside to GW pots as well. It can knock over and spill everything. Oh no, I have spilt my GW wash! Whatever shall I do? There we go, it was about half full before, and now it's just about half full. I saved almost every drop. The only thing that would have probably helped this process along would be a little funnel. But still, not too bad. I got all of my wash back with just a sponge. Wash paints are great. When I want to get things painted decent and fast, I haven't found anything better. In terms of washes to buy, I would say pick up colors as you need them. You'll probably get more mileage out of black and brown than any others. And for those, I would recommend Agrax Earthshade and Nuln Oil from GW. They're pretty great paints, and they dry quick and matte, which is awesome. After those two, however, I think you can skip all the other GW washes. I think they're too saturated with color. To fill out the rest of your wash colors, I would recommend Army Painter. They are cheap and they have a nice uniform feel across all the colors. They probably have a few too many browns. Mid-brown is a little redder, where light tone is a little yellower. And they do dry a little bit glossy, which is kind of annoying, but all in all, they are good quality paints. Once you get the feel for washes, they will never let you down. Not only have washes never let me down, but neither has the Eons of Battle Patreon. The best way to support us is by becoming a member of our Patreon. Over there, you'll gain access to some behind the scenes, voting on what models I paint live on YouTube, a hobby hangout live stream every week, and more. With that out of the way, let's learn more about washes. Those are the main ways to use washes, but there are some others as well, and these are the ones that get me really excited about washes. Washes can be a nice quick way to bring in a little color. You can mix and match them to achieve some cool blends like on this Tyrannid bioweapon. It's a nice fleshy pink, but I can rub some blue and green washes on it to give it a more sickly appearance in the recesses. And similarly, to give life to organic shapes, you can also use washes to add color onto metal. On this Deathwatch Biker, I added blue and purple washes to his chrome armor to make it more visually interesting. These are examples of tinting. Like on this face, I don't have to add a bunch of colors onto my palette or go back in with highlighting. I can just put a drop of blue wash to bring his face from warm to cold. Now there is another product out there in the hobby sphere that is doing the same job acrylic washes can do, and that is panel liner. And it looks interesting, but washes can do the same job. And you probably already own them, and in a whole bunch of different colors to boot. The way to panel line with a wash is to take advantage of that thickness I was talking about earlier. You get a good brush, load it up with wash, and carefully run it along the line you want to shade. The body of this wash will hold it in place and let the paint dry nice and saturated in that area. On this shoulder, the wash flows and hangs in the corner between the trim and the armor, giving a nice outline. Now sometimes the detail is so small it can be difficult to get your brush in there. Take this tau shoulder. The recesses are nice and dark, but I got paint spilling over onto the surfaces that should be clean. Now I have to go in and fix those spots. The trick to panel lining with washes is to add a little bit of water first. Take some water on your brush, run it over the area you want to shade, then let it dry. Now the water will dry in a second or two on the flat panel, but it'll stay wet in the recesses, and that's what you want. Now the area you want to pin shade is already wet, so you can load up a brush with shade and just touch it to the panel, and the wash will flow through the water and effortlessly leave you with perfect panel lines. Just keep depositing wash in these areas until they're as dark as you want. It's super easy and it works great. I do this method all the time, even on areas that have a lot of different surfaces like this gas can. I slop water over the whole thing and then I just let the wash flow, doing a nice job pin shading and flowing along the edges and seams. It even works on highlighting this little skull and crossbone symbol. So those are the painting challenges that make me reach for the washes. The only thing left I want to touch on is the common mistakes I see people making with washes. Now washes will work best on perfectly prepared models. In fact, if a model has any imperfections like a crusty prime job or a big ugly mold line, washes will do what they do best and highlight the offending texture and accent the problem instead of hiding him. As you can see on this chaplain, shades will not save it. And on this Scout Trooper's shotgun, the big ugly mold line on the shoulder is made more prominent by that wash paint. And another problem I see is letting excessive amounts of wash pool and dry on a model. It's definitely possible to have too much of a good thing. If you want to get your wash darker, it's better to do 2 coats instead of 1 thick one. Your paint job will thank you for using patience. If you go with too thick, you will get pools that are just solid color. You want washes to be transparent. On the good example, I put 2 thin coats, and because of this, the wash paint behaves and I have a lot more control over where it goes. Looking at this side by side, one cape has nice brown shadows and the other has some brown blotches, and it took over an hour to dry. So that is wash paints. In a fraction of the time it would take me to break out the oils, I have already applied a wash correctly the first time, and using the same brush I used to paint the rest of the model. Before oil has even had a chance to start drying, my model is already dry and I moved on to other things. Oils are great, but there's no getting out of learning your tools. Nothing is ever easy before you know what you're doing, but washes are worth learning. So there you have it, folks. Wash paints are still a major player in the mini painting game. Or am I completely wrong? I know you'll let me know in the comments below, but now it's time for the real star of the show. Let's look at this week's EOB Completes. We put out a challenge to our community to send us before and after photos of their recently finished models to be immortalized in our videos. If you want to join in the fun, you can submit a before and after photo of your painted mini to our Discord server, which you can find in the description below, or you can post it to Instagram with the hashtag EOBComplete. Without further ado, let's look at and get inspired by what the folks have finished this week. A Plague Burst Crawler by Tweepler, a Space Marine Intercessor by Obscuro, a Stormcast Eternal by Magellan Miniatures, some Vanguard Veterans by Croven, a Reichner the Grimhaler by Zelentis, some Space Marines by Stephen the Drunk Butler, a Trigon by Aaron, an Imperial Guard Commander by Not So Pro Painter, a Brute Drone by The Happy Heretic, some Chaos Warriors by Disco, some Chaos Knights by Beard, some Gene Stealers by Decimation, a Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminator by Muckle, a Primaris Outrider by Chooch7097, some Terminators by Nick, an Intercessor Space Marine by Vega Wusky, Git Stompa the Loudest Band in the Galaxy by Gale Braith, Lady Olinder by Phoenix, a Malifaux Executioner by Irritated Walrus, a Tau Battlesuit by Shut-Eye, a Baneblade Tank by Eyes on Thick Thighs, some Primaris Outriders by Unbecant LP, a Space Marine by Simon the Lobotomized Monkey, and a Tau Riptide Battlesuit by Tudula. Congratulations to everyone for a job well done. It's no small feat to get paint on a mini, and you all should feel really proud. Nothing gets the hobby juices flowing like finishing a project, and we thank you for sharing your work, motivating us and the hobby community to paint our plastic. Thanks for sharing.